Hi, thanks for tuning in to one of our support videos. In this video, we're going to help you become familiar with the most important piece of equipment in your house or business when it comes to the internet, and that of course is the router, which is this box right here in front of me. And we're going to go over what all the words and all the lights and what all the ports, all that are about and what they mean, and help you feel more comfortable with what's in your home. But most of you, if you've signed up, some of you people may have something a little different in their house, but almost everybody will have this router right here in their house. And we refer to it by the model number. So you might hear our technicians or people you talk to us say the 844. That's this router right here. It comes in this tower box right here, as you can see. And this is what powers the internet in your home. And this is one of the strongest, one of the fastest routers out there, and one of the easiest to work with, which is why this is what we use to install. In fact, this router right here can provide wireless internet or Wi-Fi coverage up to 1,800 square feet. And that obviously, there are some things that can block that, like construction of your home, things like that can make it a little smaller. But this can go up to 1,800 square feet, which is roughly the size of the average home, or maybe even a little more. So this device right here can provide you with a great internet experience in your home. But let's talk about what all this means on this router. And you can see these words down here and these lights right next to them. We're going to go over those real quick. The power one, I think, is pretty obvious. If the power is on for this thing, which it's not plugged in right now, that light is going to be on right next to power. And right below that it says broadband, which broadband means internet, right? Broadband and service right there. Also below those, you'll see two that are say Wi-Fi, and one says 2.4 gigahertz and one says 5 gigahertz. Now what this means is this is a dual band router and can run on two separate frequencies. In another video, we're going to go in deep on that and talk about why you need to know that and what you can do with those two to give you the best internet experience possible for all your internet enabled devices. Below that you'll see Ethernet 4, 3, 2, 1. Now let's say you have this sitting next to a desktop computer. A desktop computer can actually plug directly into this router. There are 4 ports for that in the back of this router, so whichever one it would be plugged into, you're going to see that one lit up on the router. So if you plug in port 4 on the back, Ethernet 4 light is going to be lit up. And then if you have 2 for phone, phone 1, phone 2, that's if you have landline phone service at your house, it comes into this as well. Again, if you have one plugged into one of those, you'll see it lit up. And down below here, you see USB. USB, there is a USB port on this. This is used for our technicians only. If they come to your house, you're having an issue with your service, and they want to look inside your router and see maybe if that's the issue, they can plug a device directly into it right there at your house with a USB cable and look right into the router and hopefully solve your issues there. And down at the very bottom, you see this button, and on it, it says WPS. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's assume, first of all, that everybody has a password on their Wi-Fi network, that it's protected. And if you don't, we strongly suggest you do. Have a password to lock down your internet so no one can hack in and use your internet and for everything else, especially people you don't know that are using it. But let's say you go out and buy something such as a wireless printer and you want to hook it to your network. Kind of hard to type in a password on a printer, right? Well, when you're hooking up your printer to the network, you're going to press this button following the instructions on your printer, and at the time you press that, it'll go out and search for new devices that it can hook to your network and find your printer. And then your printer will be connected to your protected network. That's what that's for. So always keep that in mind. So these lights, you'll see some combination of those lights on all the time on your router in your house. And like I said, you may hear a little fan, so it may have a little bit of noise. It's got to keep all those electronics cool, right? So nothing overheats inside, so there's always a little fan. But let's look at the actual physical ports on the back of the box. And this will tie into all the lights we were just talking about. So for example, starting here at the bottom, if you see this port down here all by itself, this Ethernet port as we call it, this is where your internet service will come into your house and plug into the router. We will plug in right here. And this is what provides the Ethernet or the internet service to your home. Right above that, over here, you see a power button right there, on off, right? This right here obviously says power. That's where the the AC adapter, the power cord plugs into the router to provide power. But you see an on-off button right here. We'll get back to that in a minute. But this is obviously turn it on, turn it off. Here are the 2 ports we talked about for telephone. If you have landline service, this is where they would come into the router. These 4 yellow ports, these are where you could hook up to 4 devices directly to the router with a cable, such as a desktop computer. You'd use one of these ports to plug in. We also up here have one that you see this little hole with a round circle, a red circle around it. Circles around. And it says reset. We'll get back to that in a minute. And the USB port, again, this is where our technicians would put a USB cable if they do a service call to your house to come out and check your router directly. So we do get questions a lot of times. One of the big ones is, what is the difference between rebooting my router and resetting my router? It's a good question, and there's a very important difference. If you're having an issue with your router, the very first thing we're going to ask you to do, if we can't see what it is we're going to ask you to reboot it. And what that means is just turning the power off and then turning it back on. So this will be pressed in a little farther if it's on. To turn it off, you hear it click, you push it in and let it go. And all the lights will go off, the fan will stop. Give it about 30 seconds. And then after 30 seconds, click it to plug it back in or turn it back on. And then after a couple of minutes, you'll hear all these things going on the fan. You'll see all these lights going off and on. It's going back and finding everything it needs to find and getting reset. So let it do that. After a couple minutes, all these lights will go back to normal like you remember them. And then see if your internet service works then. And many, many times that will fix that. In fact, we would recommend if you're having an issue with it and you notice maybe even something different on your lights on your router, or you're having an issue with the internet service, try rebooting your router first by doing the on and off. Now the reset there is an actual button that's inside there, and there's a reason it's inside it so you cannot push it accidentally. The only way you're ever going to push this reset button, only if you're instructed by tech support, and it's a very last resort. The reason why, if you put a paper clip in there and push that button inside reset, it'll wipe everything out on your router and return it to factory default, all the factory settings, which means it's forgotten your networks, it's forgotten your devices, everything, and that's going to have to be reset from scratch. And it's possible our tech support might be able to do it remotely. It's possible they won't, that it may require a service visit or a service call to come out and see you to address it then. So that is only going to be a last resort. Again, you can't do it accidentally by that's like, oops, it's depressed, you can't do it by accident. That's the reason for that. So, as you can see from this device, very simple but very powerful. It can do a lot of things. It can really provide you a great internet experience at your house. If you ever have any questions on it, call us at 800-421-5711 and watch some of our other videos in our support library to learn all other kinds of neat tricks and tips at vtc.net. We appreciate you watching, guys. We'll see you real soon.